Hello to all our listeners on the Badminton Talk podcast. Mark Topping, how are you doing today? Which is, when our listeners will hear this, the 18th of September 2021.
I'm doing brilliantly, John, and how are you?
Mark, absolutely fantastic. I'm so excited because tomorrow we have our Q Shuttle Badminton.
Absolutely, looking forward to that.
Last person standing stuff.
It's a brutal session. It's a very tiring session. I'm exhausted after every one of them.
Yeah, well, a big thanks to Derek Stewart, Muriel Moles, Grania, the team that have been so good helping us, promote badminton there at the Great Badminton Centre of Excellence in Baldoyle. So thank you all for that. Of course, before we get to the final part, Mark, today of Bruce Topping, this is five parts. We've really done well on this one. It's been fantastic content.
It was a big, long interview with Bruce back in March. Yeah, absolutely.
Back in March, and of course we're recording this in early September, and this is going out on the 18th of September. Mark, I know in the last part 4, it's like a Netflix soap here, when Bruce was talking about records, and we know he had 107 caps. He's won 10 mixed senior titles, and then had, is it something like 8 doubles with yourself as well as Michael O'Mara, or was it Michael O'Mara and yourself? I think that's the sequence, and 2 or 3 singles. The record books to be updated, I'm sure, at some stage by Badminton Ireland to clarify that, whether it's 20 or 21. But you wanted to say something about Eugene McKenna and Graham Henderson.
Yes, they were just, well, first of all, they're great friends, but at that time, in the period between 1999 and 2005, they were rivals. They were big rivals. They were such a super men's doubles pair to play against. And inevitably, Bruce and myself would probably almost without fail play Eugene and Graham in the final of, say, the Autumn Open, or the Ulster Open, or the Leinster Open, and we had so many tremendous battles. Eugene was such a powerhouse, and boy, could he jump and he could smash. And Graham Henderson, wow, does that man ever make the wrong shot choice? He always plays the right shot.
At the right time.
At the right time, absolutely. And they complemented each other so well. And they were such tough opponents. They
don't make them that way today, Mark.
No.
Sorry, I don't want to take your train of thought, but yeah, they don't make them that way.
Well, yeah, that's how we did it, I suppose. We drove each other on through friendly rivalry, really.
Yes.
I suppose once we got on the court, we obviously all 4 men wanted to win. We're all competitors.
What's the expression, Mark? This is not cricket, it's war.
Well, yeah, you could put it that way. Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Bruce would see the amusement in that statement. But anyway.
Yes, and Eugene and Graham took a national men's doubles title in 2002. I think it was played in the Rackets Centre in Alpha that year, and they were just great rivals. And possibly what I just wanted to correct the record a little bit in that possibly Bruce might have given the indication that we were not beaten by Eugene and Graham, or we went unbeaten, but actually when Eugene and Graham did have victories over us in tournaments, in the finals. Yeah. They were such fine competitors. But probably we had a slight edge in that period, 1999 to 2005.
But what you're saying is you weren't invincible.
Exactly.
Let's cut to the chase, yeah?
Yes.
They took you down at times, make no mistakes.
Yes.
You didn't get all the bragging rights.
No, we would have loved to have had all the bragging rights. But possibly where we had an edge on Graham and Eugene is that Bruce and I were consistently travelling away to international badminton tournaments.
Right.
And the pace of international badminton tournaments is obviously higher.
Yeah.
So we were getting used to that pace. So we probably had an edge there because we were putting in the work, travelling away. Eugene and Graham just didn't have the time, or they didn't travel as much. They did do some international tournaments. Bruce and I would do probably averaging about 10 tournaments a year in that period, traveling away.
Well, you didn't climb to number 39 in the world, Mark, for nothing. You earned that place to be in the top 40 in the world.
Yeah, you had to. If you wanted to go as high as possible.
There's not many players that have that. Sorry, I was going to say that can say that.
Yeah,
and only a few get there.
And only a few get there. Yeah, and it takes a huge amount of discipline and hard work to get there. Yeah. So Bruce and I enjoyed every moment of it, and we did it. Yeah,
I can imagine, as you said, you came back to Ireland, and as good as the players were, you had that extra. You were playing, players that were way above your grade. That you got practicing and then started closing the gap with them. But when you came back to Ireland, because the standard wasn't the international standard overall, not to say that the players weren't of a good standard, but you could see that you had that edge, you had that difference.
Yeah, that was probably why we were so successful in that period. But not completely successful.
No, well, we've got that very clear. Well, Mark Topping, thank you very much for clearing that up here on the Badminton Talk podcast, sponsored by the Q Shuttle. And thank you all for supporting the Q Shuttle, which is now on our website, Q Shuttle Gold and Silver and Gold, something like that. I think you two coined in a song many, many years ago. Okay, today, Mark, we are going back to, of course, your brother, your hero, Bruce Topping. We're just going to play the last couple of minutes. I'm going to go straight into that now, and then you can make a quick comment, and then we'll go into the final piece here of the interview. So just over to Bruce Topping.
Give an outlet.
And were you proactive to getting into cricket because nobody was being responsive to, well, look, you could play a role here in the badminton setup in Ireland, in some form or shape?
Oh, I really, when I look back on it, I was probably hoping somebody would ask that I be involved in badminton. Yeah. But actually, when you think about it, nobody owes you anything, and they don't have to ask you. And I'm sure. I don't know what Mark's situation was like when he stopped, but Mark's approach was, I'm just going to do this anyway, and be involved in setting up a club and building it. So he took a very positive approach to it. My approach was then, I thought, well, I need to do something, and I love cricket, so happened to be, plenty of local cricket clubs, and I just went back and got involved in grassroots coaching. I'd already done my cricket coaching qualifications many years before that.
Right.
And it's very interesting. Not every elite player makes a good coach because they're fundamentally different things. As a player, let's face it, you have to be selfish. It's about achieving the best you can of yourself. Coach is the entire opposite. You're there for your player, and you put them first. So that's an interesting adjustment. But I had a number of years basically coaching at grassroots level, mainly youngsters and at adult level. But I got a real joy just even at grassroots level, seeing, a beginner type career, and you work with them and suddenly something clicks with them and they can execute a skill.
Seeing the progress,
And the smile on the face when you can see that, when they've done that and they've achieved that, that gives me as a coach a great buzz, and it's a brilliant thing to see. It doesn't really matter what standard the player is. It's the personal improvement, and if you can help somebody do that, it's fantastic.
Just hold that thought there. Okay, Mark, while we're putting money into the Badminton Talk podcast meter, we'll have it ready in about 2 minutes. So, you really got involved, if I can ask you. I know I'm not interviewing you, Mark, today. We will do that at some stage. But you got involved in coaching and in badminton, and Bruce got cricket. Was that a shock to you? Haven't been with him so long and played with him so long, and then all of a sudden he's not in your face anymore?
No, really.
Yeah.
When somebody retires, you retire and you expect not to see your partner as much, obviously. It's just reality. And no, I probably wasn't shocked that Bruce went to cricket because I knew how much cricket meant to Bruce as well. It's one of his passions as well. He absolutely loved cricket, as I do. But Bruce in particular really excelled at cricket and was very passionate about it. And so it didn't surprise me that he moved to cricket. As far as I'm concerned, as long as people are happy, enjoying themselves, and I knew he was. So yeah, it was good to see him get. He did have a year or two where he didn't do anything, so it was good to see him find another outlet.
Yeah.
And
sometimes maybe you need that downtime to find yourself that other outlet. You have to go through that.
Yeah, you do.
Almost, the grey area of not doing anything before you come back to doing something that now you can really enjoy.
Yes, I think that's the key, isn't it? Enjoyment.
Yeah, enjoyment. Okay, so we are going to go straight into the final part, Mark. This is the final installment. This is it. Michael Jackson, as we said, the theme of his allegedly last tour, which never happened. This is it. But this is it for Bruce Topping here on the Badminton Talk podcast, sponsored by the Q Shuttle. So shall we give it the meter's up now. Let's do it. It says we have about 20 minutes. So I think we'll give it a kick and go. So here we go.
Yeah, John, I'll jump in there. Actually, it's probably that book that Bruce was talking about, Bounce, is coming into play a little bit there. I know Bruce moved to Donaghcloney, and I know around the Donaghcloney area there are a lot of cricket clubs. And so it's probably geography plays a huge part in probably decisions that we're not even realising. You moved away from Lisburn, which was the centre of badminton in Northern Ireland, and you moved to Donaghcloney, which is almost the centre of cricket. Well, you've got Waringstown Cricket Club, which is probably one of the powerhouses of Irish cricket, or they are the powerhouse of Irish cricket. There's so many great Waringstown teams. Waringstown are 3 miles from Donaghcloney, but I think there's about 7 cricket clubs within a 10-mile radius. So you're right, it is where the opportunity is. So, yeah.
Very good. I was also going to say, when you said it's great to see the smile on the players, it's also great to see the smiles on the parents, because they love seeing their kids progressing that bit more, as Mark will allude to. When I see Sophia or Dylan and they've improved something, not only are they smiling, I'm smiling going, wow, Mark has just got them to be able to do a backhand from the back of the court and clear the shuttle for the first time, and you're going, wonderful. It's great to see that, Bruce,
Yeah, but I think, you two are experienced coaches as well, and it's, that coaching's not, things don't move evenly. It can, some player might struggle with something for weeks and months, and then suddenly it just clicks, and you've mastered that particular skill. That's what really develops players. Getting the joy from actually being able to improve particular skills.
Yeah, no, you're right, and seeing, like, I've seen a lot of the juvenile players over the years, and they're all, many of them have progressed so much, and at different stages, because physically they grow. Maybe some of them get their spurts at 13, 14, others it's a little later. It balances itself out when they get to whatever, late teens and into maybe in 20. And I think I could imagine, Bruce, like Mark, you've come across as having great patience and great listening, which are key skills with coaching. You just have, I know that. I know from Mark, he's so patient. He's great with players. He knows the pace to take them at. And I think that's wonderful. And I'm not surprised why Mark Topping is always in demand, and I'm sure you would also be in demand as well, Bruce. But we have to get you back into the sport first now, in a kind of coaching way first. You know what I mean? Take you from the cricket.
Well, indeed.
So that's probably a nice cue to. I think this is our last question, Mark, with Bruce, and I'll start.
It is?
Yeah, it's question number 999 on the list. So Bruce, from your own perspective, having given so much to Irish badminton with your incredible, I was going to say incredible record, but your incredible record, your work ethics, your professionalism. And what I know you've been down to the BPLs a couple of times watching the players there, and you keep your eye from when you get a chance. What do you think of Irish badminton since your retirement? Now, that's going back quite a bit. There's a chunk of time there, but since 15 years, I don't know exactly what the number is. And what do you think of the future of badminton? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, you've been very generous with your praise of me, but I always look at me as yes, I was proud of what I achieved, but at the end of the day, I was a part-time player, reached a certain level. What's really impressive about Irish badminton now is that it's really got on to the next stage. The funding seems to be there, the support seems to be there, and it really started with Scott Evans, who. It started before that. There are other players that deserve mention that made world class standard. And I'm just thinking in the modern era. You go right back into history. Ireland was competing in All Englands and winning medals. In the 20s, 30s, 40s. But of the modern era, you had people like Tommy Reedy, who played in the Olympics for the USA. He was a fantastic player.
Yes.
And then you had individuals like Sonia McGinn, who was fabulous to qualify for Olympics and play in Olympics. Was a full-time player and was fantastic.
I think she was the first one, Bruce. Was she the first one to go to the Olympics? Sorry for cutting across you again, just since you mentioned Sonia, or was
as an Irish representative?
Yeah.
Ciara Downey came very close. Barbara Beckett was a very high level player, but I don't think badminton was in the Olympics at that point. So there's always been those players, and then Scott came along. Very, very talented player, and got to an extremely high ranking, played Olympics, honestly. Then you've got the McGees, Chloe and Sam. Also, Chloe's been to Olympics. And I really admire what they've achieved. I mean, really to put their lives full-time into the training. They've lifted Irish badminton to new levels. And I think the thing I really admire about them is it's been proven that you can do it from Ireland. You don't have to necessarily go and live full-time elsewhere to do it. So with the backing of Daniel and other coaches, that they're able to train full-time in Ireland and compete at world class. I mean, the results in the All England were astounding. And you've now got other players competing. There's Nat, who's nearly at world class already, and will hopefully go on to play Olympics. And that's really inspiring to the next crop. And from when I came down to watch the BPL, I was amazed at the technical ability and the physical ability of all the players. It was way ahead of where we were in our time. But improvements obviously come with time. But I think the future for Irish badminton is very bright at as long as they can maintain the resources into the elite player program. I think maybe an issue is grassroots, and there's just enough funding for that. I'm obviously from Ulster, And it does seem to me that we're not producing the same level of players or number of players as we used to. Now, I've been out of it, so I can't comment on why that is. I know there are plenty of people working very hard to improve badminton in Ulster. But I think we need to start producing. We seem to lose lots of players. They get to a decent level and then retire very, very young. Players retired at 23, 24. It's how you keep them in the game and keep improving. So I think maybe grassroots badminton needs more support. Whether there's enough good training facilities around the country to allow that, I'm not sure. But on the whole, I think we could be very positive about Irish badminton. There's lots of good things happening, and I was thinking about this, and for the size of the country, and to have three pairs or singles playing in the All England, I don't think there's another country the size of Ireland that had that, or even close.
Well, probably Denmark.
Really punching above our weight significantly at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I guess where badminton isn't one of the top sports, it is up in Denmark, Mark, after whatever, is it football or something similar? But whereas in Ireland, Gaelic football is there, and there's been other sports, and then eventually you get badminton coming into the slipstream. I was just going to make a comment, just saying I think what needs to happen is a little bit of luck and a big win somewhere for our superstars, and for it to really like when Katie Taylor in boxing achieved that moment, when Paul Donovan achieved it in rowing, when the boxers in the past in the North, Barry McGuigan, when all these players did something, it got the young players involved in the sport again. I think there's nothing better at promoting a sport than showing evidence, and the fact that badminton is an Olympic sport, unlike other sports, that's a huge positive takeout. Let's get some players over there, and we know Nat is hopefully going to go to Tokyo, and it'll be a bit tough for Chloe and Sam, but it's still possible. They have a couple more tournaments, and if things went the right way, and they could get there, and I think that is what will inspire, I think, the club player, all the masses to come into the game. And I think we just have to be careful as well, Bruce, and it was something Mark and myself discussed earlier on today. We're still in lockdown. COVID is still here, where thankfully the vaccines are coming. But other sports are going to be open maybe ahead of badminton, and we really have to lobby strong for badminton to be opened at the same time. Because if tennis opens and golf opens and all these others, these young players who've been so fed up of training and want to just go and pick a racket, something up, we could be losing more players. And once we lose them, it's hard to get them back. I think there's got to be a huge effort now, and I think now is the time. And I'm saying April 15th, whenever this is aired, anyone in badminton, you need to do everything to get people back in, because others are. It's starting to slip. I'm seeing a bit of slippage. The top players will be okay, but there's only a handful of them, understandably, because they train so hard, and that's just the way it is. So, but if we don't have the masses playing, Bruce, we don't have a sport. That's the way it is, isn't it?
That's right. I think this whole COVID crisis has been a real problem for all sports because you go away from something and then it's quite easy to lose interest in it and fade away from the sport. And I think all sports are going to be hit with loss of players at club or grassroots level. It's unfortunate. Maybe it'll take time to build it back up. But that's one of the big drawbacks of this, what we're going through at the moment.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that you're right. We're all, all sports are competing against each other in a way, and I'm purely, thinking of the younger players in the game that have been robbed of a year and a half of their playing careers and playing tournaments, and that's why they train. I was talking to even Dylan the other day, and he just says, "I just want to play a tournament. I'm fed up running in the park. I'm fed up hitting a racket in the garden. I'm just fed up. And he's almost crying saying it. Now, he'd kill me for saying that. He's not crying. But, he's absolutely... And this is someone who's been very motivated. So if that's how he's feeling, how are others feeling? We really have to... I think we've got to manage the rest of 2021, the second half, really, really carefully. It would be a bonus if we did something special in the Olympics. That would, I think, be a good start. But I think that, the Leinster branch and the Ulster branch and the Connacht and Munster and Badminton, I think everyone has to do something here. And on the positive side, Bruce, as you said, we've a beautiful stadium, the National Indoor Arena out in Blanchardstown, and I'm sure you would have died to play in an arena like that, along with Mark in your day. I know Mark plays there with, if the Nationals is played or the Masters, he competes still, as we know. But it's an arena and even myself, even playing the odd vet tournament Masters, I went in there and I feel like a superstar going out. It's brilliant. It's amazing. You get a buzz.
Yeah, I haven't been in it, but it's much easier to play in a facility that is specifically for badminton, or has you don't have any issues with hard floors or bad sighting, or that was. I hark back to what I said about when I spent time in Denmark. The halls all over the country are just beautiful, and then really nice and warm, and sprung wooden floors, and that all encourages people to come and play. Yeah. And the one other thing, and I know we're almost running out of time, and I don't want you locked out of that building, Bruce. There's a very good team atmosphere in Badminton Ireland. I think they've done a very good job, if I can say, keeping every person, no one person's bigger than the team. And I think that's what I've observed. I don't think they would even admit that because, it wouldn't be maybe the right thing to do. But I'm saying that as an observer. And I think that was one thing Ray Stevens talked about in his podcast about this team and getting confidence. And I sensed that from your playing career. There was great team, great camaraderie. And that's so important in the game, just that whole thing for a sport that can be individual as well as a team event. I think that's you've been fortunate enough to have had that experience of being part of great teams over the past, and even your partnership with your brother wasn't too shabby either. Absolutely, he was great.
No, Don, you're actually good. I think you're. One thing that I'm really agreeing with you, John, is I think we have to mind our juveniles. I really do. I'm hoping that Badminton Ireland and all the branches come together and work together in a positive way to support juvenile badminton players, because they have missed so much. And I think we have to mind them, and we have to really encourage them back to badminton. And we need to be laying out plans and strategies now, and really going for it. But anyway, that's my opinion.
No, absolutely. Well, we can have that discussion on one of our Badminton Talk unscripted evenings. Who, you never know, we could invite Bruce on that one. That'll be another conversation. But I think, Bruce, we have to wrap things up, and personally speaking, really getting to know you over, I don't know how many parts we're going to have for this podcast. We've been on for hours, and we've done this over days and weeks because of the way we've put it together. It's been brilliant. Your story is fantastic, and I genuinely mean that. And I hope you I hope we see you somewhere in the sport of badminton, in some format, in some setup, in some input. I don't know what that means, but you're looking very youthful and athletic, and I will post a shot of this on social media so people know who Bruce Topping is. I can't thank you more for giving your time up. Really, really genuinely say thank you. Bruce Topping, 22 titles, I'm sticking to that, 108 caps, retired at the age of 38, keen cricketer, financial advisor and a gentleman. Thank you so much, Bruce.
Yeah, well, just finally, I'd like to say thank you very much to you guys for allowing me to talk. But, I've been listening to the podcast you've had so far, and I know who you've interviewed and coming up, and it's really fantastic that you're doing it, because it keeps interests going in badminton, and there's lots of fascinating stories. I'm looking forward to hearing everybody you've got. The first two have been Ray Webster and Ray Stevens, were really, really fantastic, and you guys are doing a great job, so thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Bruce. Mark, last word? We leave a last word with a topping today. Okay, Mark.
Bruce, thank you again for your time. I know you're an incredibly busy man, and really appreciate it. And take care.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And okay is okay. So that Mark Topping was back in April 2021. We finally got 5 episodes extracted from Bruce Topping today when we record this. It is the 2nd of September. Of course, the day this goes out, it will be the 18th of September. I'm barely remembering all this. Mark, fantastic stuff, yeah?
Yeah, isn't it great to hear somebody's badminton life story? There's many aspects to Bruce's life, obviously, but just fascinating to listen to his badminton story. As it is of anybody's story. I love reading. Actually, funny enough, I'm in the Monster group at the moment, and they're doing a tremendous thing. They're picking people, and people are giving their life stories in badminton. They're writing it down. And it's just absolutely fantastic to read. Some really interesting stuff coming out of there. That could be something done in Leinster and Ulster and Connacht. Monster badminton.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we have to share all the different stories. I really liked, Mark, what you said. We have to mind our juveniles. That struck me there listening back, only because I guess I'm familiar with the juvenile setup in Ireland and in England as well. And to have missed that amount of time may not seem a lot to, older people, if you like, that are not juvenile, but to them it's like a lifetime. And I think a big drive now is needed. And at least in the Q Shuttle badminton, that's a help. We see a lot of young faces back in there, eager to get back in. Yeah. We need as much encouragement. I think that was so on the money there, Mark.
Yeah, I'm sure Leinster Badminton, Badminton Ireland, all the branches are making good plans to support juvenile badminton. In fairness to Leinster Badminton, the Youth Activities Committee, fabulous committee, with a good budget, and really help promote juvenile badminton in Leinster. I hope that continues. Be a big supporter of that, and even what about putting some more money into it, more squads, and more development of badminton, and let's really support our underage players.
Yeah, actually, I often wondered what the yaks meant.
Yaks.
Yaks, is it? The yaks.
Youth Activities Committee.
Yeah, we need many yaks all over the place, I have to just I laugh at that. I don't know why. It conjures up something different, a yak. But Mark, listen, again, brilliant podcast with Bruce Topping, brought to you by the Q Shuttle. So there's not much really more to say other than looking forward, Mark, tomorrow to getting out on the singles court again and You're going to give it another lash, Mark?
I am, John, and if I come up against you, we'll have a battle royal again.
Yeah, we'll have. There's many, many battles, loads of different battles. It's been a great success, the Q Shuttle, dividing the players into different grades, getting them to play all different types of grades, and then getting the grades to play the same grade, if you like. And it's really a great formula. So that's it for another week on the Badminton Talk podcast here, brought to you by the Q Shuttle. Mark, so what do you do now? What's your plans now? Just about getting ready to go back to school, to go back to badminton, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's starting to pick up. It's starting to get busy, John. I'm getting phone calls from clubs and schools and private individuals looking for coaching. So I can't wait to get back to work.
Yeah.
I've been more or less not doing anything for a year and a half. So
well, you've been doing your yoga though, haven't you? You're still doing your yoga?
And I've been walking a lot in the forests and doing my yoga every day. Yeah, I can highly recommend yoga. It's so beneficial. It worked for me. I recommend people try it at least.
Okay, so you heard it there from Mark as we let the jingle play out. Mark, it's been great talking to you again. We shall yap more and see you on the Badminton Talk podcast next week. Take care, Mark.
Take care, John.